Hi, my name is Paul, and this is my build guide to the Glottkin, originally for Age of Sigmar, but this is going to be for my Death Guard army for Warhammer 40,000, as a replacement for the Great Unclean one. This model comes on 2 sprues. They're very packed with detail and also with lots of little small items, so I will go through the basics on how to clip the model out and how to fit the parts together. I would highly recommend buying some sprue cutters. These ones are actually for my son's railway track. They're quite chunky, but they get the job done. But I'd probably recommend some from Tamiya, Games Workshop, whoever. Just something that allows you to snip the models out of the sprues. Now, I bought this model on eBay, so unfortunately it didn't come with a box or instructions or anything like that. So I'm actually having to go through here at each sprue and try and work out what each part of the model is. It turns the model into a giant 3D puzzle, which is actually kind of fun, but also slowed me down a little bit in the whole build process. Don't worry, you're not going to watch me snip all this out in real time. I'll speed it up so you can get to the point where I'm actually putting it all together. Now we're at the point of dry fitting the model together and working out what bit goes where. And boy, does this model have some mould lines and seams. The seams on this model are like Grand Canyons that run through some major points of this model, like the legs and some of the body. And once seen, they're hard to unsee, and you see them on a lot of really nicely painted models of this kit. Now, once I've dry fitted everything, I'm going to tidy up each part, removing mould lines, removing the sprues from the gates, and just making sure that everything is ready for the final glue together. Here you can see I'm using one of the 4-sided soft nail files. These things are great. You have the coarse edge, which allows you to get rid of any really sticky mould lines or anything which is like a big gate or something like that. Then you've got the one which allows you to just smooth what you've just roughed up down, and then there's even polishing sections which allow you to bring up the plastic back to its luster. My apologies here. I'm not particularly used to filming myself when I'm making models, so I accidentally had my hands out of shot. But you can see that I'm using the Tamiya ultra thin glue. This is fantastic for any kind of model making. Anything where you're fitting parts together which have got good contact, this type of glue is fantastic for this. This type of glue is almost pure solvent. There's very little filler in this, which means that when you hold a model seam together, you can literally tap the brush against the 2 parts where they join together, and it will just literally, by capillary action, go all the way through the joint. And it bonds almost in seconds. The grab on this is literally instant. You can pull things apart for like probably about the next 5 minutes, but be aware that it won't like it and it will make the surface rough afterwards. The glue is also really useful for another ability as well. Where you have 2 points which join and they have a big mould line, or actually a mould seam like in this, if you put a small amount of the glue, gently place the 2 parts together, wait a couple of seconds and then push them together a little bit harder. What happens is that the glue softens the plastic in the middle of the join, and as you push them a bit harder together, they actually kind of squirt out ish, not exactly squirt, but ooze out, I think would be a better term, and they actually will help you fill that gap up. After letting the models sit for a couple of hours, I then came back and I'm now using this Vallejo plastic putty. It's basically a very thick acrylic paint, but it allows you, because of the very fine applicator, to fill in gross mould seams like there are on this, where the 2 points of the leg come together, and using a very fine bead you can basically fill that gap in, let the putty dry, and then sand it off using the nail file again, and it almost makes these join invisible. Sorry for the big jump here. Unfortunately, I'd forgotten that my SD card had run out, and I was happily building away without the card actually recording at this point. You can see how much of a 3D puzzle this model is at this point. There's so many oddly shaped parts and pieces that trying to put it all together without instructions is actually quite difficult. I had to basically dry fit using blue tack an awful lot of parts together, and then slowly but surely glue everything together bit by bit. Here you can see me using the nail file again, now going over the areas where I'd filled in with the plastic putty. Here I've snipped out a small bit of wet and dry 400 grit, if I remember correctly, which I'm then using to get into very tight spots to make everything, just smooth it off, and also get rid of any burrs or any other bits and pieces that I may have missed. Again, I'm filling in some more of these canyon-like joins between the two parts of the model. Now I'm putting the top part of the body together. The instructions might tell you to do differently to how I'm doing it here, but I basically just dry fitted every part, then glued them together, dried fitted again, maybe slightly adjust the part while it was still elastic with the glue, and then let them sit together, then put on the next part. Now the model's almost finished, so I'm now just going around just trying to make sure that there's no mould lines, no bits and pieces that I may have missed, just trimming up and just making sure everything is ready to go. I decided not to stick the bum banner on at this point. I thought it would get in the way of painting, so I painted that part entirely separately. Time for priming. I use Citadel's Chaos Black for this. It gives a good smooth surface, and I'm used to how it works with my other paints and everything else. Here's my handy old piece of wood. You can see that I use white tack on it to hold the models down. It tends to do a better job than blue tack. At this point I took the block of wood with the model attached and the spray can, gave it a good shake for a couple of minutes, and then took it outside and gave it a good spray from all angles. And there we go, one built and primed Glottkin, ready for its base coats and all the other effects that I'm going to be putting onto this model. I won't be building the other Brothers Glot to add to this kit. This kit will be used as my main boss of my Death Guard army, and I'm going to build it as a scenic base. I'm planning on basically doing another video for the painting of this and then another video for the building of the scenic base.